Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of Where I Went Wrong. So, in this edition of Where I Went Wrong, I'll be doing Where I Went Wrong, UFC Vegas 46 edition, or you could say UFC Fight Night, Kattar versus Chikadze. So, where I went wrong. So, first Where I Went Wrong video of 2022. What is like I already dropped like 40 videos for this year already, but one of my first series of videos for 2022. But yeah, so where I went wrong, I went start this year off 500, which is not great, but as we all know in the predicting game, that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I ultimately feel like the picks I was confident in, I did pretty well on. The picks that I wasn't confident on, I actually did pretty well on those as well. And then some picks, well, I got my most confident pick actually got mopped, so that was not a good look. But again, marathon, not a sprint. But let's get into it. So I'm trying to think what was my first loss. I went 500. Let me try to tackle all of them off the top of my head. So I think the first one was Bill Algeo versus Bill Algeo. But yeah, the first one was Joe Anderson Brito versus Bill Algeo. That's the first one. And this one I felt my prediction on it was pretty spot on. At least my analysis of it was pretty spot on. But I saw what the strengths and weaknesses of both guys. And I said it spot on. I saw how the fight would play out. And it kind of did play out the way, but ultimately the guy I picked did not win. I feel like Bill Algeo was the better fighter and should have won, but I leaned to Brito. I feel like this was a case of a pick where I listened too much to people outside noise. I'm like, oh, Brito should win. Algeo is better, but Brito has the momentum. Algeo gives him these takedowns. He's gonna just end up giving him a decision because he'll allow Brito gonna win with sloppy aggression and sloppy takedowns. And he still scored a lot of takedowns. He still landed a lot of sloppy, heavy shots. But ultimately, Algeo did invest in the body, which I said should be good for me. I know he didn't take no tips from me, obviously, but it was just obvious. Took some good tips. I mean, not from me, but he obviously invested in the body well. That was good. And sprawled pretty good at some points. Stuffed some key takedowns and made him pay for them. Still a very semi-close fight, but clear that Algeo won. But a case where I swayed a little bit. But ultimately, I feel like analysis was spot on. I was spot on everywhere with this one, just not who I picked. And I feel like I don't know the thing to do with picking like sometimes it's okay to kind of lean to outside know a little bit and kind of reconsider your picks. But ultimately, the best recipe is to stick to your own recipe because you try to do everybody else's recipe every now and then, or you take too much. But it was only for like one or two picks, so and it's not like I just say, oh, everybody say this, everybody say that. I just switch my whole picks. It was like one or two picks, but still, overall, your best bet going to be to stick with your own research. Don't listen to outside noise. If I would have stuck with it, I would pick Algeo, but ultimately, general analysis I was spot on. And then let me see, if was another one that was a loss. And then who else lost? It was two. And yeah, these fights be eluding me. The another pick, let me see, Holmes versus Pickett. I feel like this was definitely not like no super confident pick. I feel like it was just more so again, same as last pick. I picked against Pickett purely because I see him as a guy that allows his opponent to dictate the pace too much and like easily accept the back foot. In this case, in this fight, it really wasn't the case. I think in the first round it was a little bit, but then Pickett, he had that mental note to say, "Hey, I take a step back. I give up the front foot too much. I'm too comfortable being the guy getting pushed back." And he saw at times he would take an extra effort to, put his foot on the gas and initiate offense, throw a blitz, throw some combinations, throw some power shots. So he's saying mental notes. Probably hearing it from his coaches, hearing it from the news media, and hearing from predictors, whoever he's hearing it from. And he saw that maybe he saw it. He could see it himself. He's not blind. He could see where his issues at. And he turned up. I feel like Holmes on the side. Holmes is a green fighter. You can feel confident in him. But ultimately, the guy's a green fighter, and I did not like his striking prior to the UFC. I did not like his striking in the Contender Series. I feel like the more talented grappler was Holmes, and the more talented striker was Pickett. But Pickett has a guy that's kind of timid, kind of gunshot at times, don't really let his hands loose. So I feel like his striking is much smoother. I feel like he's a more smoother striker. But yeah, but I feel like he's doing just enough now to stick around the UFC. But ultimately, I feel like as he gets up in competition level, he gonna see the same mistakes from Pickett. But kind of spot on. But Pickett was able to like say not lay back as much. Still not as high of output as you would want from him, but definitely more intensity and the more mental notes to turn it up know when to turn it up and when not to. Like he probably should turn it up more, but the fact that he is knowing that where their where the scores are, or the output is, and say, oh, let me turn it up at this point, and then the fact that he started to push the pace, use that experience against the fresher face guy at Holmes. Good note on him. Holmes, I don't think his stocks really dropped too much. Well, I probably drop a lot, but I feel like ultimately in the long scheme of thing, it's a loss, it's a lesson, and he's fresh in his career, so take it as a lesson and not a loss. And I feel like Holmes could have a pretty bright career. Just keep building. Don't hold it on too much. You put a guy with more experience than you, and he used that experience. That guy has suffered some losses, and now he's trying to learn from those losses. And now this is your loss, and now he got to learn from them. But I feel like it's pretty spot on prediction. But ultimately, I feel like Pickett did a good, he did a 300 IQ move, saw himself, and made the adjustments, and that was able to, allow him to win a close decision over this bright prospect. But congrats to Pickett, but ultimately, he messed up one of my better, more confident picks. But hey, I'm interested to see what he does forward, and if he could do that on a higher scale. But ultimately, I feel like I'm probably gonna pick him against him if he has a step in competition. He fight these fresh faces or these bloated up welterweights or something. I'm probably gonna pick him, but if he goes to competition, I'm probably gonna have to pick against him again, and he's gonna prove me wrong again. But definitely like what I saw from at least the fact that he made adjustments. So anytime you make adjustments, good. The next fight was Roy Val versus Bontarin. And I picked literally every single I predicted this to the T. I saw Roy Val's sloppy offense without much power or any purpose. But you can get caught by something that could be damaging. Very active off his back. Ultimately spent too much time there. He did have that armbar, I think, in the third round. And probably really should have been a tap and finish there. But I don't feel like the fight could have went either way, but it was karma. In reality, I feel like Bondarin should have got his hand raised based off what happened on a 3-round, round by round decision, not an overall fight decision. It should have went to Bondarin based on what all the control he was doing. The fact that he was the only one really landing effective strikes. Again, Roy Wilder be doing little slappy, weak strikes that aren't really effective, and he was getting dropped every single time Bondarin touched him. Bondarin was landing the more effective shots, whereas Royval was slapping him in pillows. He was effective off his back, but ultimately was getting neutralized and controlled outside that arm bar and like a sweep in like the third. So I feel like it should have been clear win for Bondarin, but hey, you tapped, you little Brazilian tap, you got the karma, you lost a split decision. But I feel ultimately everything I said about these guys was spot on, and how I saw the fight would go was spot on. Close decision or competitive decision, but highly the most of the fight been Bondarin on top, neutralizing the offense of Royval off his back, and Royval been too comfortable to attempt submissions off his back and play jiu-jitsu instead of working back to his feet. But he did work back to his feet a couple times, but ultimately got put back down most times. And did play jiu-jitsu a large portion of the fight and gave a lot of control time. But again, close but no cigar. And what do you got? Win by inch or lose by inch. A loss is a loss, a win's a win, and a loss for me. So that's 3 right there. Fourth one was my least confident pick, and with this one, I've learned this lesson like 1,000 times. Well, not 1,000 times. Man has not had 1,000 losses, 1,000 fights, but with Chase Sherman versus Jake Collier. Chase Sherman, unless he's fighting like a bloated welterweight or something, or some guy that just don't belong in the UFC at all, like at all, you got to pick against Chase Sherman. Chase Sherman is just not a guy you can put any confidence in. I put low confidence. If I could put low, very, 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 very low confidence, I would put that for Chase Sherman. But I seem like every single time he's in a fight where he's fighting these bottom tier heavyweights, I always pick him. And I feel like maybe one time out of like 3 times, or maybe it's been very few times. It's been very few times where he's actually came through. So it seems like not off an analysis wise, just off the fact that he is. I mean, is who he is. You could just close your eyes and say it's Chase Sherman. I'm picking against him. Because most cases he gonna lose in these situations, unless the guy like really like a bum. The guy like I feel like he's decent. I feel like he really not a heavyweight. I feel he was definitely the more well-rounded fighter, as I said. But hey, yeah, Sherman just not that sharp on the feet. Very hittable as always. I didn't mention that, but I mentioned that plenty of other videos. I said the guy is like pretty sturdy chin on him, but for all intents and purposes, Sherman has zero striking defense and is a big punching bag with a big head. So Collier took full advantage of those free punches to the face that he could land on Sherman anytime from anywhere, got him to the ground, mauled him, and tapped him out. So Sherman showed that his grappling is even lower than we've thought. But it is what it is. But I feel like the real lesson in that one is Collier all that great. That's not the case. He's not all that great. It's just that Sherman is who he is, and like I don't know. But I feel like at this point Sherman probably get cut again. But going forward, I don't know. I'm probably gonna make the same mistake again. Hopefully not, but definitely gonna fade Sherman as much as I can going forward if they do keep him around, or somehow he's in like a Bellator or something where I'm predicting or betting against him. Definitely gonna try to bet against him or pick against him. But yes, that fight. But with that, Sherman, it is what it is. That's the lesson. It is what it is. You know who Sherman is. And I know who Sherman is, but stop making the same mistake when you already know who Sherman is. And then to the main event, we had Giga Chikadze or Calvin Kattar versus Giga Chikadze in the featherweight division. And this one, I feel like Kattar was coming off all that damage. He did take a whole year off. Like he started 2021 getting mopped by Max Holloway. And that was like what the first fight, well not first fight, but first card of the year. And then he got mopped like in a historical beating. Took a whole year off, and he come back and started 2022 off, first card of the year against Chikadze, one of the better strikers in the division and in the UFC. He was all like, this guy took so much of a beating that it's hard to imagine him coming back the same. And seeing his track record of dealing with guys, that could move, like do those little inside kicks and not stay in front of him, like him having issues with those styles, like like this is a recipe for disaster. And I was very confident. In fact, this is my most confident pick, and it turned out to be ultimately wrong. So I feel like with this one, um, yeah, Cater just came in like he took that time off, like took that 4 year off, worked on some things, came with a good game plan. I feel like he was a student of the game, and I guess like his coach said, like if he follows the game plan and the stuff we put, like so he was doing everything well. He was not giving Chikaze that space to snipe. Was constantly in his face, constantly pressure him, and it was on him the whole fight. He was taking his shots, giving them back, and like just not allowing him to be pretty, not allowing him to really be composed, not really allowing him to plant like he wants to plant, and just really neutralizing his game. And even at some points he mixed it up, and that's another thing. I feel like he broke a lot of you know things that typically aren't broken in a sense. Guys that can they're well-rounded mixed martial artists, but they fight one dimensional. Like say Jose Aldo at times. Like Jose Aldo is a multi-dimensional fighter, but I mean, like, Jose Aldo's not really even the best case. Some people like, I don't know, maybe Tyron Woodley is a better case. Tyron Woodley, like a fighter that's multi-dimensional, but they get so much caught up in what striking, they knock a couple people out. All of a sudden, they forget they're wrestling. All of a sudden they can't take no one down no more, or they don't look to take people down. They go for 1, 2 takedowns and stuff. It's plenty of fighters that fall into that pattern. And I feel like typically when they start following that pattern, they just turn into a one-dimensional, one-purpose fighter. Like they just turn into strikers. They can have solid takedown defense, but they offensively they just be strikers most cases, or they be limited grapplers. But he broke that in a way because he actually had some good wrestling offense and grappling offense against Chikadze, and I did not expect it because typically, from what I have seen and studied, that's it's the opposite. Don't happen. And typically, fighters that take beatings like that don't recover the same. And he came back better. So he did a lot of things that I did not expect. And I'm sure a lot of other people didn't expect him. Like, everyone was writing him off. MMA outlets were writing him off. They were saying who should fight him next. They said Chikaze. They didn't even put his name in there. And they were saying who should fight Volkanovski next. So they were definitely writing him off. And I was among those people writing him off. But kudos to him for overcoming the doubt of the media, overcoming the doubt predictors, cappers, overcoming the doubt probably in his own self, overcoming that beating, overcoming a year layoff, and overcoming statistics. Like I said, people get take a beating like that on return. People that focus their style so much on striking and kind of forget the other parts of that aspect, at least offensively, typically just become one offense fighters. And he came back, took that time off as a multi-dimensional fighter and used those multi-dimensions. In fact, I feel like that's the first time I really seen him grapple offensively in the UFC. So that's very interesting, the fact that he did that. So came back very impressive performance for Cater. And even but prior to that, the Max Holloway beating, and prior to maybe another one or two more losses, well, really like one loss. Really, even just prior to the Holloway fight, I feel like he probably was stylistically a worse matchup for Volkanovski for the fact that he Kattar goes out, he don't care so much about the wrestling of Volkanovski. I feel like Holloway, he kind of had the thing in the back of his mind, the fighter he was prior to his takedown defense getting better, and he like, even though he can defend, he takedown and get back up, he kind of respects them too much, or he kind of gives them too much emphasis or too much thought to the takedown. So his offense gets frozen up by Volkanovski just level change. So he reacts too much. Where I feel like Kattar, he'll just fight his fight. He'll be his fighter. He's not gonna go out there and like bite on those takedowns, bite on those feints as much, and fall into the same combination that say Holloway will. I feel like stylistically wise, styles make fights. I feel like styles wise, Kattar, being a more natural wrestler, coming from a more wrestling based background, is not gonna be is afraid of Volkanovski's wrestling. Volkanovski's still a beast even without his wrestling, but I feel like he can at least not be caught up in those feints as much and be able to just fight a good fight straight up with Volkanovski. But am I saying gonna win? That's to be determined. I would think Volkanovski will win, but we'll just have to see. But that's another story for another day. But ultimately, start the year 500. But it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's a marathon, not a one race. But I'm pretty solid, good with my research as far as how I saw things going on. But I'm not happy with the fact that where the chips have fell. Like I'm happy about outside the main event. Co-main event I really didn't care, to be honest. I still don't care, but it is a loss of loss. But main event definitely take a big dig with that one. But big props to Kattar again. I'm gonna say downtown. Props to Kattar, props to Kattar, props to Kattar for doing that. Very impressed by him, and definitely proved me wrong. And I think one or two people in the conversation like y'all writing Kattar off, put respect on Kattar's name, and you were right. Put respect on Kattar's name because he did the damn thing. Shut Chikadze out on all the cards, and that one was 50-44, so that was a 10-8 round and one of those cards. But props to him. And yeah, so good card. Well, for Kattar, a lot of people didn't really like the card, but I feel like it was a pretty decent fight card. Especially just the fact that that long layoff of fights to finally get back to some fights was a solid card. But for me, 500. But now I'm just rambling and continuing on and on. But next card should be better. The card out there should be better. Get back in my stride. It's just the first. It's just to knock some rust off and get back at it. And that's the video. Thanks for watching. Peace.